All right, it's that time again. We wrap things up on the podcast edition of First and Now with Cam Tucker, a little between the lines. Cam, of course, with BCLC, PlayNow.com, and he's on the other side of the country in Nova Scotia, but still good enough to join us on family vacation. Cam, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good there, fellas. Just calling you from New Germany, Nova Scotia. And for all you viewers out there, I encourage you to look it up. I would say that the people from Nova Scotia are probably the nicest people I've met. So happy to be on vacation, but happy to be joining you guys as well for this segment.
Sounds like a blast. We love that. Let's get into it. Lions Alouettes. We've been talking about this matchup throughout. BC opening as a 5.5 point underdog this week, Cam.
Yeah, no surprise, really. The Lions right now, obviously going through their struggles against Winnipeg and against Saskatchewan, and I mean, we kind of talked about the last week and before the season that this would be the most difficult stretch of their year. 5.5 point underdogs, though. I still think that there's a lot up in the air right now, in terms of the quarterback situation. So we think of Nathan Rourke. He was limited in practice today. We'll see if he gets the nod here this week. But if you're looking at the Alouettes as well, they had their struggles last week and they didn't have Davis Alexander as their starting quarterback. They were going with McLeod Bethel Thompson, and that offense, that entire team just didn't look, themselves. They just didn't look quite right. So I think right now there's a lot riding on the quarterback status for both Montreal and BC. The Lions, I don't think any surprise 5.5 point underdogs. But, the thing is, if they can get Nathan Rourke healthy and he can get in this week, start taking some reps with the first team. Maybe he gets the start. He's feeling good enough to play. And the Alouettes don't have their starting quarterback. And one of the guys who's one of the favorites for the MOP, Davis Alexander, due to injury, then it makes things interesting. And right now, the Lions 5.5 point underdogs. We'll see if that shifts later in the week, depending on the quarterback status. But, there might be a window of opportunity here if the Lions can get their quarterback healthy and the Alouettes cannot, because the Lions, I think, need to come out into this game and, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. You got to play with some urgency here because they need the win.
Cam, when it comes to the other three games in the CFL schedule this week, you got Winnipeg, Calgary, Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa, Edmonton. Some pretty important matchups early in the season. But where are your eyes looking toward when it comes to the lines on these games and any trends that stick out to you?
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out for me is Winnipeg. They're, right now they're favored by 3 points going into Calgary on the road to open up the week. And, the Blue Bombers right now are just kind of steamrolling the competition. They got 2 wins against BC. They got a win against Edmonton. They're 3-0, but they're also 3-0 against the spread. And the impressive thing is that in those games, the Blue Bombers have the lowest margin of victory was 13 points. So they're rolling right now. They're looking like that team that is, again, ready to kind of take control of the West Division. And so 3 points, I think, is quite favorable for Winnipeg. I think that that's certainly, a line that they can go into Calgary and get that done and cover, not only win the game, but cover the spread. And then you look at the Stampeders, and I don't know exactly what this team is at the moment. They had a decent start to the year. They go 2-0, and then they play a game against Ottawa towards the end of June, and the weather just looked absolutely dreadful. You had high winds, you had monsoon rains. Big one for the under there was good, but the Calgary Stampeders, I just don't know what this football team is at the moment. And you get a team in Winnipeg who's just rolling right now. And so I think 3 points, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I'd certainly be looking at that as an option going into this week, certainly to start the week.
All right, talking boost, and it is Canada Day. It's fitting. Let's talk about a couple of receivers. Of course, our own Justin McInnis, and I guess he's our own too. Delta boy, the son of Corey Quick Six, Tyson Philpott. What kind of totals are we looking for these two Canucks on Saturday?
Yeah, so we're going to have to wait to see. I think the quarterback status is going to have to play out here before we go into the weekend and boost this up. But basically what we're looking at right now is a Tyson Philpott, Justin McInnis boost of some kind. I think that these Canadian receivers are kind of ready to break out. Justin McInnis, we've talked about this, for weeks into the season. When's the big game when is the big game happening? And I think that last week was, certainly if you bet on Justin McInnis overs last week, that was a tough one. Only 3 targets. Still think he's the elite receiver right now, probably in the CFL, but the opportunities have to come here. And so I think that looking at his target share from last week and then looking at what the Lions might want to do offensively this week, I think he's in a bounce back position. And then Tyson Philpott, he's had one really good game against Edmonton and 3 other productive games, but you want to see more out of him as well. So I think that both of these Canadian receivers on this Canada Day week are going to be primed for some very big games. And so we are going to be looking to cook something up on Justin McInnis and Tyson Philpott, probably looking at a parlay. But we're going to wait for the quarterback status on both teams before we officially come out with the boost later in the week.
And keep it tuned to PlayNow.com to see how that boost materializes. All right, sir. We'll let you get back to family duty in beautiful Nova Scotia. Who knows? Maybe we'll get out there one day for Touchdown Atlantic one of these days. You just never know. So
the over-under on lobster dinners was 2.5, and right now, boys, the under is trending, but I think that that's going to change later in the week here.
Oh, it's early.
Yeah, it's early. Yeah,
life's too short, as they say.
Yeah, take care there, guys.
All right, sir. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, have a good one. Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.